The wait is over.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Warning! Warning! This is
Eric and Gord, what if we're right?
Listening Just Got Better.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Into the behavior you want, whether it's in a relationship, as I found in The Truth About Marriage, or whether you're a salesperson trying to sell a car to somebody or a house. There are, for example, I'll give you an example. One of the things that salespeople use, psychologists call it a fixed action pattern. When, let's say you go to a car lot and you want to buy a car and the car salesman says, if I can get you that car today at that price, would you take it? And you say, well, maybe. And so, well, follow me. And he turns around and walks into the office. And one of the things that Reggie in the movie teaches the salesman is that when you say that, when you get to a point after the test drive, generally you say, if I can get you this car for this price, would you take it today? No matter what they say, you turn around, you say, follow me, and you turn around. And you don't look back, because then they will follow you into your office. If you turn around and look at them, it's like the spell is broken. And they'll stop. Once you've got them into your office, you continue with this fixed action pattern where everything that you say and do is sort of pre-programmed to get a response from someone who's buying something, and it's like follows a flow chart until you get them to sign on the dotted line. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that a good salesperson tries to do is to train you, if you're the customer, into saying yes. To train your brain into following the pattern that they want you to follow. And so the way they do that is they start nodding and they ask you easy to answer yes questions. Like, do you like to go on vacations to nice places? Yes. Do you like puppies? Yes. Do you like ice cream? Yes. Do you want to buy this car today? Yeah. And they want you to say yes. And if you do that over the course of an hour or 2 hours, it becomes more likely that someone will agree to the questions you're asking them as you're dealing with down payment, payment per month, financing, whatever the question is. And salespeople are taught, I mean, if they have a general sales manager, they're taught these little techniques that work, and because they were discovered thousands of years ago. And so we dramatize that in the movie Suckers.
So I guess this brings the question. Is there such thing as an honest salesman nowadays?
Well, what does it mean, right? What is the question? Is it, if the question is to your partner, did you eat the last cookie? There's a very specific yes or no honest question. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. But in a negotiation, it's not that simple. You want to get something for less, and the salesperson wants you to pay more. And if, let's say, you get what you want and you pay less, you're taking money out of his pocket. And if he gets you to say yes and pay the price he wants, he's taking money out of your pocket. This is the argument that a good general sales manager will make. What's the difference? You're both trying to take money out of each other's pocket. So you come in forearmed as a customer, for instance, with a certain amount of knowledge and ability, and the salesperson is armed with a certain amount of knowledge and ability. And of course, they're probably going to win. They're going to make money off of you. Because imagine you're going to play tennis against Andre Agassi. He's practicing every single day. You're practicing once every 3 years when you're going to go buy a car, maybe every 3, 4, or 5 years. He's got a lot more experience, and so a salesperson is going to make money. They're going to make money off of you because this is what they do, and they're good at it. There are things you can do though as a customer, obviously, to increase your chances at paying a better price and getting a better deal. And I actually, at the website for the film, I put a blog up with the do's and don'ts, what a customer should learn or should know before you go in to buy a car, and what a good salesperson should know. And I mean, primarily what you should know, if you're going in to buy a car, you should learn before you go in, find out what the dealer paid for that car. It's called the invoice price for the car and for every single optional item that you want on that car. So there's nothing left to chance. And then when you are dealing with them, you will say, then once you know what they paid, you can say, I will pay you this price, giving them maybe a $300 profit above the invoice price. They try to get you to start to pay retail or the sticker price, and they're trying to get you to beg for a discount. If you go in and know what they paid and try to get them to beg you to come up from the invoice price, it's a much stronger position than if you're begging for a discount from the invoice price. So it's called dealing from the top versus dealing from the bottom. As a customer, you want to deal from the bottom. As a salesperson, you want to deal from the top. You want them to beg you to for a discount. And it sets you in a different psychological advantage or disadvantage if you understand this before you go in to buy a car. And you'll see this happening in the scenes in the movie.
And I am a salesman's dream come true. I fall for all that stuff. And I buy of useless crap because of it.
So you know how it works, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm every marketer's dream too. I buy everything.
See, I'm a weird one. Being a sales guy and everything else, I'm literally I'm part of both worlds. I love doing the sales. I love that reactionary point of when you get somebody who doesn't know something about a product, you get to teach them about that. And, I mean, you, for the most part, you want to just show all the good points of it and, downplay the small points, whatever else, and you move forward with it. But then being on the other side, where me being a customer walking in, if I go in and I'm introduced to a sales guy who just doesn't really know his game very well, I'll just run circles around him, and I'll usually end up going to buy from somebody else just because, well, he just didn't have the skill set. But you get a guy who's really good at it, much like Eric, I can just get caught up in that, and I'll be, next thing you know, I'm just broke as a joke, and I'm like, great, I got a bunch of crap I didn't need. Fuck.
Yeah. I think the trick is to think you're selling something. I don't want to feel like you're selling me something. We're just having a chat, and if I end up buying something, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's another one of the techniques. I think you're about
you mentioned in a conversation we had a long time ago when the three of us were just. Yeah, exactly. Now, we were just talking about Wall Street in a conversation we had a long time ago. I think the definitive salesman movie is Glengarry Glen Ross.
That is my favorite. Yeah, I would say if I had to pick a film that I idealized the most before making Suckers, I would say Suckers is kind of a cross between Glengarry Glen Ross meets Clerks, set in a car dealership.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great film. Well, they're both great.
I've never actually even heard of that movie.
Actually, I saw a play, this is going back about 10 years ago now. I saw with Eric McCormack in the Alec Baldwin role. Eric McCormack from Will and Grace.
Oh.
It's a little different when you see it in the theater versus
he was in
the movie.
Alec Baldwin role. Well, I love the way David Mamet does his movies. They almost feel watching them. I think he's a genius at that.
Yeah, he's a master of dialogue.
I'm just trying to look. I actually, you know what? I've seen the scene. I've seen the clip of the of Alec Baldwin doing his speech to the guys. I didn't realize that was the name of that movie. How about that? I should have actually seen it.
Oh, it's great. You're gonna love it.
And
that's so funny.
Movie making. If anyone's interested, State and Maine is probably the best movie about making a movie I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's a great Mamet film. I think House of Games is among my favorites as well.
Yeah, he's just an amazing writer. I'm curious. I'm very, very curious about is in Roswell, because it just seems like if there wasn't the alien association, they would still be weird.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? Actually, you cut out for a second.
Oh, I'm cutting out again. My question is just what it was like to be in Roswell. Just because, opinion, if the alien incident had never happened there, those people would still be weird.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's Americana, and that's part of the focus of the film is weird Americana. And this town, Roswell, was known for nothing until about 1997 when they had this big event, this big celebration of this alleged crash. There was an Air Force base there, and that was part of what the town industry was. There's a bus factory, there's a cheese factory, and then it's all desert. Not far from there, though, is what's known as the Trinity site, which is the site of the first atomic bomb test in history. And if you can go there and you can actually tour this site, you can go look at where a bomb exploded and walk around there and look at how the sand of the desert was fused into glass by the heat of the atomic blast. So that, when people started trying to figure out, well, why did aliens come to Roswell? They thought, oh, maybe it had something to do with the fact that we were testing atomic weapons and atomic energy not far from Roswell. And then they had they threw a rod in their spaceship and it crashed.
So here's something I've never understood.
So in 1994, the U.S. government confirmed. Sorry, Gord, I was talking over you there.
Go ahead. Go for it.
In 94, the U.S. government confirmed that, in fact, there was no weather balloon. Now they're trying to say it was a U.S. spy balloon.
Yeah, that's the most likely answer. What
do you think that
it was? What they were doing there, the U.S. government in the 40s, particularly like 1947, as World War II came to an end, and the U.S. began to see Russia as their most preeminent adversary. We were spying on the Russians, listening to the Russians, trying to gather data and intelligence. And one of the things that the government did was send up these very high-altitude balloons with listening devices for the purposes of listening into radio traffic and worldwide communications. There were surveillance balloons. And one of these balloons, what goes up must come down, came down on a farm just outside of Roswell, New Mexico. And because the government was so paranoid of the Russians, when some rancher who found little pieces of metal, which looked like unexplainable metal, because these balloons are made out of very thin aluminum, he started saying, hey, I found something weird. Maybe it's a spaceship. And then the local newspaper ran with it and said, spaceship crashed. And so the government, being paranoid of the Russians, said, oh, that's a good cover. Let's run with that. Not knowing it would lead to this gigantic folklore that would emerge many years later. They tried to walk it back soon after that. And once they realized, well, that's kind of a ridiculous cover story to say aliens are coming here from another planet. But that's the most likely explanation for what happened in Roswell. Of course, there's many other explanations that some people favor, that there actually were aliens. But that's the likeliest.
So I have to ask. So, I've never fully understood the fascination with Roswell when you've got something like the Battle of Los Angeles happened in, 1942. This was like an actual documented thing. There were thousands of eyewitnesses, lots of pictures, some phenomenal imagery shot of what happened of this. Eyewitness accounts, news stories, everything was all fully covered. And the information is still available and out there. You can still see everything else. But yet, for some reason, aside from the fact it was made to a horrible fucking movie a few years ago, there's nobody really even knows that this even exists. But yet, a supposed crash in the middle of the desert there's zero proof of. And yet, everybody's all over Roswell. I wonder, what is it about Roswell that makes that lore stand out so much stronger than say, like as the example, the Battle of Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And sometimes one narrative is more appealing to the way we like our stories told than others, and that's what catches on. I mean, why did the Bible catch on? Because Constantine decided that it served his purposes when he wanted to unify his particular reign in the Roman Empire, and that led to Christianity becoming a dominant religion. Sometimes something catches the zeitgeist, or now we call it a meme, right? That term meme was invented by Richard Dawkins.
Yeah.
It's like a gene or
I've
a
been
virus.
dying to ask you, speaking of aliens, do you think humans as we are now are prepared for space travel? Do you think it's a good idea for us to be thinking of going to space in the next couple of years?
It's wishful thinking. I mean, the realities of it don't line up with the fantasies that we see in movies and television. The reality is that it's very difficult to live somewhere other than the Earth. We are evolved to live here. This is our Eden. This is where it's easy, where we have the food and the air. To lift ourselves and a spaceship and whatever else we want to pack in our suitcase off this planet and propel it to another planet or even further, another star, takes so much energy that it's virtually impossible to accomplish safely, because not only do you have to accelerate to near the speed of light, because you can't go faster than the speed of light. That's what Einstein that's what the special rule of relativity says, and it hasn't been disproven. You not only do you have to accelerate to near light speed in order to get somewhere in a reasonable period of time, you have to then decelerate. So you've got to use an equal amount of propulsion and mass to slow yourself down. Very difficult, and probably out of the realm for at least the science we have now, without some breakthrough that we still haven't even really imagined how it can happen. Like wormholes and things are all narrative techniques that don't have any real likelihood that they could actually happen. One of my prior films, The 6 Days in Roswell, is about aliens and space travel, and I've been enamored with the idea because I'm an avid reader of science fiction. I love science fiction and wondering where we can go and if it's really possible. But is it really? I mean, can we really go somewhere beyond this planet? And here's a corollary question: are aliens actually coming here? And that's the whole basis of 6 Days in Roswell. Are they really coming here? And what's the likelihood? And the fact is that they probably aren't. And I'll give you the reasons why. First of all, it's the distances between planets and stars is gigantically vast. It's really hard for our brains, our pea brains, to grasp just how big it is. And it's getting further all the time because the universe is expanding. To go from our sun to, let's say, Alpha Centauri, which I think is 7 light years, it would take immense resources to do so. So imagine that you're an alien civilization and you want to go somewhere, you want to go to another planet or another star system. You have to ask the question first, why would you want to do that? Why would they spend those vast resources to go somewhere like here? Well, first of all, they'd have to find us. We're like the needle in the haystack. And we've been listening. There's something called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
To have it, to track it on my computer. And I would get updates if they heard anything.
Well, they've heard nothing, right? The reports it's silent. There's nothing out there. There's no signals, and partly because signals have to travel at the speed of light. Therefore, it would have to first, if we heard a signal from Alpha Centauri, that means it happened 7 years ago. But most of the suns and worlds in let's take our galaxy, are hundreds of thousands of light years across. It would take 200,000 years for a photon to travel from one side of our galaxy to the other. Similarly, a radio wave or any sort of energy. So the distances are vast. But let's say that they were going to do it. Let's say they found us and they were coming here. The only reason you would go somewhere to spend that amount of resources would be to colonize that other planet.
Of course.
So if they came here, it'd be the worst possible thing for us because we would be like ants at the picnic at best. They just want to get rid of us.
What was I've always been of the belief, and this is just my personal belief, I don't know that people share it. I think if there are aliens on other worlds, I have no reason to believe they're more advanced than we are. So in my mind, they'll just be at the same stage of the game that we are, and maybe they've gotten to their moon or put a rover on their Mars or something. But I don't know that they're any better off than we are.
Well, there's something called the Great Filter. Have you heard about that theory?
I have not.
The Great Filter says that probably a part of consciousness or an inherent property of matter may be the development of conscious beings like ourselves. But part of that being inherent in that particular, in an intelligence, is the fact that once we become intelligent enough to discover technology that can destroy ourselves, we're likely to push that button. Some idiot's going to push the button once you build it. So that's
definitely
probably the reason we haven't seen any aliens, is because it's a natural progression for intelligence to destroy itself.
And that is, it's funny you should say that. That's the plot line, basically. That's the basis of an animated movie I'm making about Gordon myself.
Well, that's more of a documentary than on reality, because that's probably what's happening.
So you don't think that aliens would see us, like say, they can come up and take a little distance. Okay, let's take a look at these guys from a distance. We'll watch them. You don't think they see us and they just say, okay, we know where these guys are on the evolutionary chain, and they're either just going to annihilate themselves or they're going to smarten up and they'll flip it around. We'll give them 100 years and we'll come back and we'll just see where they are sitting. Like, you don't think it's anything like that?
No, there's no going back and forth. If you're going somewhere, it's a one-way trip. And so if they're coming here to live, probably on a multi-generational ship of some kind. And just because you have to consider the vast amount of resources. Look at like the heavy lift rocket that they're launching recently, or SpaceX, the Falcon Heavy. They're gigantic rockets because you've got to get from here to there. You've got to expel a certain amount of matter that's equivalent to the mass that you're lifting, and you've got to keep accelerating it. And so that means you've got to keep expelling mass. You've got to have some kind of mass to expel, to propel yourself, your payload, and ideally you want to accelerate at one gravity, or whatever the gravity of the planet you're leaving, so it's comfortable for you. You want a continuous one gravity acceleration. That takes an enormous amount of energy. And so how they're baffled. They don't know our scientists don't know how to do that yet, how to figure that out, how to make that happen. And let's say an alien intelligence figures out a way to do that. It's still an immense amount of energy that they have to expel to get here. Why would you do that if you didn't plan to stay?
Also, something that they don't talk about very often, and I'm sure you're familiar with Chris Hadfield, very famous Canadian astronaut who spent time on the space station. He was the longest. He spent the longest amount of time on the International Space Station. And when he came back, his body was a mess. His bones were soft. He was a disaster. It's not like a healthy experience. I can't see the average person, and those people train their whole lives for one mission. We're probably generations away from the average Joe being prepared to do something like that. If not just physically, but even mentally, I think it would be. We haven't figured out how to handle this scamdemic. I don't think we can handle going to space psychologically.
No, so you know what would happen? The most likely scenario is if an alien spaceship did come here, or if we sent one somewhere, it would probably be a robot or an AI that could handle thousands of years in space without going insane or losing body or losing bone mass or all the other problems, getting pummeled by space dust. And, our bodies are easily destroyed and harmed, but a robot can potentially repair itself back to new. That's probably what it would be.
And they absolutely terrify me. Last year, a computer called AlphaGo Zero actually turned itself on and taught itself chess and beat. It's not Deep Blue. I don't think it's one more advanced than Deep Blue. But anyway, AlphaGo Zero turned itself on, taught itself chess, and beat the reigning chess master. That is horrifying to me. I don't like that we have that kind of intelligence.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be such a harbinger of doom. I know you guys like such rosy stories and optimistic pictures, but that's not what I'm giving you tonight.
Well, Gord's all for the destruction of the planet.
I'm so cheering for that.
I'm predicting it in the short animated film I'm making about me and Gord, where it's in the future and humans have moved on. We're all robots now. We live on a robot planet, and Earth's a horrible place to be.
There's a book. I just read a book. You might find this interesting. It's called Homo Deus, and it's about what the future of mankind is, and that we will probably become godlike in the next stage of Homo sapiens. What's next for us? Probably some kind of godlike version of ourselves that are augmented in ways that make us into essentially a cyborg, a human and AI combination. And that would mean the end of Homo sapiens as we know it, because we would be replaced by some superior mechanized version of ourselves. And that's where we're headed right now. I mean, if you look at your iPhone or your cell phone, imagine that becoming made the size of something that could fit on the head of a pin and then put inside your brain. We're not that far off from that.
We're really not. And it's terrifying. It's a bittersweet thing for me, because on one hand, I fully don't intend to ever die. I have the opposite of a do not resuscitate clause. It's always just resuscitate, keep me plugged in, do whatever it takes. Eventually they will cure whatever it is I have. Just keep me plugged in a corner somewhere.
I'm not sure they can cure personality disorders, though.
But on the other hand, the technology scares the bejesus out of me. I don't want robots. I don't like them. I don't know how to reconcile that in my mind, because I do want, like, any artificial means to keep me alive, absolutely. But I've always said, like, they held a symposium years ago where they were trying to come up with a like charter of rights and freedoms for robots. Should they be declared a race so that they get the same, like, freedoms can be or rights, they can be given rights. And I've always said, if they become a race, I'll be very, very racist the next day, because I don't like robots, and I don't think I would get along well with them.
That's such an interesting question, because what if you created an intelligence, an artificial intelligence that was essentially conscious of itself and would feel pain or discomfort at the idea of you turning it off? Because once it becomes aware of itself, much like you, it would want to continue to be around. Then would we have any right to turn it off? Because it would be like extinguishing a consciousness.
Absolutely. That's a question I can't answer. I can't even get to the morals of it. That's a scary thing. Again, a topic for the very involved comedic film I'm writing for Gordon and I.
Can't wait to see this thing.
It is about a war, a futuristic war, where we send drones out. And it's all drones. There's no more humans fighting. But when the drones come back, Amazon, which is the biggest company in the world, gives them all jobs as delivery drones. That was their promise if they made it back from the war. And then all of a sudden, humans just start getting picked off left and right, and they can't figure out who's doing it. It turns out these drones suffer from PTSD. And we didn't think it was possible for them to be self-aware like that or feel those kind of emotions. So we just thought they would be fine, and they weren't. And then Amazon tries to cover it up by framing Gord for blowing up the Earth.
You had to destroy the Earth to save the Earth.
That's the excuse I'm using. See,
So-
Eric and I have actually talked about like that next sort of step in human evolution in the sense, and personally, like it came up as a topic with us when we were discussing how like the idea of if you were to basically lab grow a baby, and you can customize it to whatever you want, free of this disease, that disease, this color hair, this color eyes. I want them to grow to be this tall, whatever it might be. I personally, I mean, if I had the means and the opportunity, I would absolutely do that instead of taking the risk of just a natural birth where, so many things could go wrong. If I could just pre-order that, hey, why not? It makes my life easier. And then which also makes them, in hopes, would eventually get them to evolve quicker than where I am, because they will have less of, I guess, of those precursors that comes with a natural human. So I, for one, actually look forward to the next stage of that bit of evolution, the mixing of the two.
I think those precursors are necessary. I think they're part of the evolution. And if you try to skip those steps, you're going to come up with a weaker being. It's like
just takes
steel.
over faster.
you love knives. Your steel. If your steel is not hot pressed properly, if you skip a few steps, then you come up with shitty steel.
Until the next evolution of steel comes along, and that's just it, is where you get the cold infusion of steel, which exists. Eliminates a whole lot of extra treatments, costs a lot more money for the technology, but it does exist. I just think that I think that humans, as far as we are, I think we've peaked. I don't think we're going to get any better than this. I think we're at this point, if we don't evolve to the next stage, I think we are going to start devolving.
Oh, we absolutely are. And I'd like to bring Roger in on that thought, because I've always agreed with Nietzsche that we have to get, basically to paraphrase, we have to get sick before we get better. And I think we see it happening. Roger, where do you think what would be the next step in evolution for us?
Well, sadly, evolution means that if there's a next step, that means we have to go away, because the next step is an improvement on us. It's different from us. And that's what happens. And we are devolving in a sense where the less intelligent people reproduce faster than the intelligent people. You see that happening naturally, because intelligent people put off having children much longer than people who don't. Let's say you don't go to college, you probably are having children sooner than if you do go to college. And over time, that adds up. We have an average intelligence level that's affected by that. But if there is, let's say that somebody has a baby that's superior to us, and you see that in movies, mutant movies where mutants are born, and then the people who are not mutant feel threatened and then want to stamp out these superior beings, because that means we have to go away, and then we've got warfare.
Well, that's what we've always done, though. We do that with just different races of ourselves.
Well, we did that with Cro-Magnon, and there was actually, I think, something like 6 or 7 different types of humans that existed 50 to 100, 200,000 years ago. We are the ones, Homo sapiens are the ones that survived. We stamped out all the others eventually. And some of them, we interbred with some of them. So you see that, you can find that's one reason they know that there were these different versions of humans, because they can find remnants, genetic remnants. One was called the Denisovans, and they primarily were in the Australia, New Zealand area of the world, and they were distinctly different. Yeah, they were distinctly different from Homo sapiens sapien.
They still are.
They were close enough that we could interbreed, and so we did. And so you can see some people still have pieces of them that are carried forward.
That is exactly how I've always described Australians. That makes perfect sense.
So yeah, it's not a great thing, Evolution means we go away. That's the hard part, and then some new thing replaces us.
And with the way the world's going right now, I support this. I look forward to seeing our new leaders or our new species that replace us. If they need a knife sharpened, let me know before I go.
As long as they're not Trump supporters, I'm in.
Yeah, well, these are fascinating questions, and these are the type of questions that keep me engrossed long enough to finish a film about generally. And I made 6 Days in Roswell is about aliens, and The Truth About Marriage is about relationships. Trekkies, even that's got space. It's related to space. So it's maybe my next documentary will be about AI and whether or not we should unplug you guys when you're both on life support.
Yeah,
go for
it. It's a fascinating question. I'm glad I get to be kind of a part of it because hopefully, I'd like to think. I think probably the next 50 years are going to be hopefully very exciting. They're either going to be exciting or we're just going to degenerate into chaos, but
some of both probably.
I would think so. And not to get too serious about it, but what do you think about the state of your country right now and the direction it's going in? Is this going to continue? Do you think?
Yeah, we need a new president, and hopefully we'll have one soon because there's not the leadership is lacking, shall we say?
Exactly.
It's we have a chaos agent who's currently in charge, and chaos is very tiring. I'd like to go back to boredom, a little bit of political boredom for a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think Joe Biden is definitely going to unite Americans a little bit because I think every single American can agree they don't like Joe Biden.
Yeah, the more boring, the better. That's all I've got to say. Bring it on.
I used to work with a lady who was a telecommunications specialist. She got to work for some massive organizations where it started just with forms of media, how to using certain colors in certain stores and certain patterns in commercials. And then her knowledge ended up evolving farther into when it comes into speech patterns. And one of the most interesting conversations I had with her about this was when she talked about former President Obama's speeches and the fact of, he would be saying specific words and phrases that to the 99.99% of the population, you would just hear the words he's saying and think this is what he's saying. But he's actually talking about something completely different. He's specifically speaking to certain people. And it was terrifying for her to listen to a lot of his speeches because she actually knew the real meaning behind of what these speeches actually meant. Then you get, Trump that shows up and just, monkey wrenches the whole plans because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about anyway. But
that was something like the Mandela effect, I think.
Yeah. But I always thought that whole concept of, I guess, using, speech manipulation. Fuck, I had a whole point to this. My brain just melted on me.
Well, it brings us back to sales techniques and manipulation. Yeah. It's all about trying to get people to do what you want them to do.
Yeah. So I guess when it comes into for America, for who to choose for president, Eric and I have discussed the living crap out of this story. I think either choice, I think America is absolutely ruined no matter which one they choose. I see no good coming from Biden. I see absolutely no good coming from Trump. But I guess it comes down to, it's a sad state of affairs when a vote comes down to the lesser of two evils and not who's better for anything.
Right.
Well, it's a binary choice. You have to choose one, otherwise you're letting everybody else choose. And we've seen what happens with a chaos agent in charge, and I don't know that we can handle. I don't know that I can handle another 4 years of continuing chaos.
But how much of it is really chaos and not just manipulation from media?
Well, I would say that Trump is reactionary. He doesn't have plans or policies. He reacts to what he sees on TV, and then that becomes the thing of the day.
Yeah, that's very
There's no
true.
strategy. Like the Chinese have long-term strategies. The Russians have a strategy. The Germans have political strategies and international policy. We have none of that right now because the guy in charge can't think beyond what's in front of his nose right now on television.
I'll throw out my theory there again because I know fans they like my predictions. This is my prediction for 2020. I think Joe Biden gets elected and he steps down before he's inaugurated in January. And they put someone else in, whether it's Kamala or I think they put in Kamala and then she's replaced by a man. And you end up sometime next year with a male president who is not Joe Biden. That's my prediction.
Well, it's certainly possible that Kamala Harris will be elevated to the presidency at some point before the next 4-year term is over if Biden wins. That's certainly a possibility.
100%. Where are you? I have to ask, just because you're probably the most intelligent guy we ever speak to. Where are you on QAnon?
It's sad if I'm the most intelligent one, but I'll do my best.
Trust
QAnon,
me, it's fully agreed.
QAnon is the same category as religion or Scientology. Show me some evidence. If you're making wild claims, you're gonna need some strong evidence. And there's no evidence. It's just some lunatic tweeting, or where's the evidence? There is none.
No, they're the same people that I know who subscribe to the QAnon theory are also flat earthers. So, and ones that genuinely believe it.
Yeah, well, if you think the Earth is flat, I don't feel like I'm stepping out on a limb to say you're an idiot. I have flown on airplanes.
But did you bring a level with you? Because, if you bring a level, that shows the Earth is... I couldn't even say the sentence.
Yeah. Flat earther is they're dum-dums. Is that a good word?
Yeah, that's the nicest way to put it.
I don't know how many of them are being genuine or how many are just pranking us, but... It's a weird time to be alive, and that's what I mean. So if we don't degenerate into just either the characters from Idiocracy or just end up eliminating ourselves through some silly war, are the right minds headed in the right direction, do you think? Or is Elon Musk the great savior of the human race?
Well, yes, may you live in exciting times. We certainly do. And it's very interesting to see what's going to happen next. And it's amazing to watch what technology is discovered next and invented and perfected. It's fascinating. The fiction that's being written. There are great books, fiction and nonfiction. There's so much fascinating. I mean, I devour knowledge and books, and I can't get enough, and I can't wait to see what is next. And Elon Musk is a guy he thinks like he comes from Silicon Valley, and so he thinks differently from the traditional car companies, because that's why he's destroying them. Essentially, He's created a whole new paradigm, a whole new way to approach mobility. And we are reluctant to change. We don't like change. Conservatives hate change, particularly. Liberals are much more willing and excited by change. And that's one of the distinctions. And I love to try new things and travel new places and shake things up. And I don't want things to stay the same. But I also don't want us to destroy ourselves. And I believe it's important that we conserve our resources and not pollute and needlessly destroy. I'm a big fisherman. I love going fishing in Ontario every year, every chance I get. And it just saddens me when I see clear cutting or garbage left behind or overfishing. We have to be smart about what we have. And there are many Christian sects who believe that this was all given to us by God and we're supposed to use it up because we're going to get a new world. But I don't think that's a smart way to handle what we have. I think we need to take better care of it.
Anybody who thinks that way can absolutely go to Amazon and buy my book, The Only Bad Thing That Ever Happened at the Bourbon Hotel. And everything is explained in that book.
So we're on the same page, guys, I think. And so, but I tend to be an optimist. I think the future is very bright, but full of a lot of bumps.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. What is the future then of filmmaking for you? What's the
I'm finishing up a documentary for Showtime called The Comedy Store, and it's about the history of this famous comedy club in Los Angeles. That's going to premiere on Showtime.
I have actually performed at the Comedy Store.
Oh, wow. You're going to love
Believe it
this
or not.
then. Yeah.
It was 2000, I want to say 2008. So a lifetime ago, basically.
Well, that's
but yeah,
what's
I got to
next.
go on tour.
That's what's next. And I'm really excited, to be restoring some of my older films like 6 Days in Roswell and Suckers. So please, anyone who's listening, please check out those films on Vimeo on demand or on Blu-ray. You can get it on Amazon, wherever your favorite store is.
It's on Vimeo. That's good to know. Sorry, I didn't hear that the first time around.
Yeah, you can stream it today. It just was released today.
I just accidentally paid $300 for a Vimeo subscription that I didn't know I was buying. So that works very well for me. Roger, I do the free trials online. You get the 7-day free trial for things, apps and whatnot.
Yeah,
and it's free if you cancel. I never cancel.
I'm going to start sending you miscellaneous bills in the mail and just start collecting money for my retirement.
You absolutely could, and I'd probably fall for it for a very long period of time before I realized. And there's hand in hand with technology. I've got everything direct deposit, direct withdrawal. I have no idea how much money I have or who's taking it.
All you know is it's not much.
Yeah. It's not as much as I would like.
I just know seeing that dash in front of my numbers keeps getting really frustrating. Is that a negative? Son of a bitch. That's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah, turn that around.
Right?
Get that I have to ask, a documentary about the Comedy Store, that must have been amazing to be a part of.
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's got all the greatest comedic minds of the last 40 years that all came through there in the film.
Oh, my God. I think this is probably one of the most necessary documentaries to be made because the history, just the history alone of who has been up on that stage is just, it's mind-bending. Like all the biggest names, just everybody's been out there. It's incredible. It is nerve-wracking to do 7 minutes on that stage and just know the other feet that stood there. It's terrifying. Yeah. Stand-up in general is terrifying.
It's very difficult to do well, and as these comedians all will attest to in the documentary, it's a lot of people think they're going to dabble in comedy, and the thing is, it takes 10 years or more to really become a good comic.
And those 10 years are 7 nights a week, usually 2 shows a night if you can find them, and you're constantly working. I couldn't keep up. That's one of the reasons I don't do it any longer. Is I just couldn't maintain the schedule you need to stay relevant. Because comedy is just like any other form of entertainment. If you're not in everybody's face all the time, you're really easily forgotten. It's so true. Yeah, it's like anything, though. If you want to be good at it, you have to do it every day and get your 10,000 hours in. This is why Eric and I do so many podcast episodes, because otherwise they keep forgetting who the hell he is. Well, of course. Eventually, you're going to get good at it. Eventually. One of these days. If I could get a GD internet signal that would work. Well, I'm glad we got it to work, guys. It's been, as always, I love talking to you. Oh, I love talking to you too, and I'm very excited for the 2 movies. I didn't get to see them yet because I was in the process of moving just as we started talking again. So that's going to be my weekend because I got the Vimeo subscription. You're going to love it. How do people just watch? Do you need to sign up for Vimeo to watch them, or is there do you just go there and watch them? I'm not sure how that works. You should actually be able to sign up for Vimeo for free and watch films. And if you choose a film that's on demand, it's just like Amazon. It works like Amazon. You can stream it for whatever the cost is for that individual film. Okay, that makes sense. So everybody do that. For it's Roger Nygaard Productions, or
Blink Movies on Vimeo on demand. It's where it is now. Both films, Suckers and 6 Days in Roswell. And they'll both be on Amazon also in about another month and a half.
Oh, perfect. We just interviewed a guy from Albuquerque here on the show, and he was just a mental case. I can't imagine what being in Roswell was like. Have you been back since you made the movie?
I went back once it was finished and did a screening there for everybody, for the locals, and they loved it.
Really? It just seems like an interesting... I've never been to New Mexico. I'd love to go. It just seems like such an interesting place. Everywhere south of for us, everywhere south of Oregon is interesting. So
Roswell is a great place to visit. They've got year round. They've got the Roswell Alien Museum, and the whole town has gone alien crazy. You can get everything from alien beer to alien beef jerky.
Wow.
Alien jerky. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the ingredients.
I don't think they are either.
Just like most American fast food, it's better not to know.
Yeah. Right. Just take your chances
and enjoy it.
Just smile and drink.
Good. Do you have anything you want to throw in? Because I know you love
last chance. Yep. Last call. Here we go.
Oh my God.
Final round.
Yeah, put me on the fucking spot. This is what's always good for me. Literally, I'm actually really happy with how everything's gone, because I think we pretty much covered a lot of the stuff there's a lot of the topics I'd love to talk about, and especially when it comes up to the next stage of human evolution. That's a fun one for me to discuss, because I love how it freaks out, other people. So to have that great discussion with you guys was just that was icing on the cake for me. So I got fuck all that.
Well, by the next time we speak, we might all be extinct, and some new species will have taken our place.
Exactly, and hopefully they'll come up with a better question than me.
They might be more entertaining. And you guys didn't get your fishing trip together this year because the stupid borders closed.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm so sad.
And I gotta tell you, man, I've found some there's a few decent fishing holes up and around, even around this area specifically, and just in my town of Milton. But there's lots of places we can go to check out.
I will be back as soon as the borders are opened.
Nice. I think the way they're playing that'll be in 5 years, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it is that hopefully next year, because there's been an entire year where the border's closed, the lakes are going to be, the fish are going to forget what a lure looks like next year, and it's going to be a free-for-all.
Yeah, I'm definitely going under that hope and assumption myself. My friend Chris, who's an avid fisherman, he still doesn't have all that much luck. He's still the master of catching bait. I can't. I'm so happy I called him out for that.
Tell him to fish to the structure. Look for the submerged island, and that's where the fish are.
Well, he's good for he's probably the greatest caster on the planet. This guy can. We were about 35, 40 feet away from this dock, and the guy had his boat lifted up out of the water, and he was shooting his mouth off about how good he is at casting. So I'm like, all right. I said, hit the prop with the one facing the bottom, and the bastard did it. And you can point to anything, so he's got the accuracy. It's just he just doesn't have the skill to deliver.
I still say it's all just luck.
Yeah.
I would say that about you guys. You also have the accuracy.
Well, I thank you.
We just take some pride in that.
We don't have the skill.
We're out there fishing with an empty hook.
Listen, guys, it's been great. It's been great chatting.
It has been great.
Let's do it again.
Thank you so much. I certainly hope so. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for being so patient. I promise we'll figure something out for the next time.
I will be pleasantly surprised when that happens.
So will we.
All right. Go ahead and stick around for a minute, if you will.
Yes, sir.
All right. Bye, guys.
Right. Thanks, Roger. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, buddy. Wow. That was great. I will stop recording. That was fantastic. I hope I can piece together something great. I feel like such a moron right now. It's not even fucking funny.